Welcome everyone back to Weekly Weather Updates, and for this afternoon's video we're going to have a look at the latest GFS, GEM, ECMWF, GFS Ensembles, and also finish up having a look at the UK Met Office run as well. We were talking a lot about blocking and northern blocking in yesterday's video, and today it does look like within the models over the next 7 to 10 days it's going to be a lot of omega blocking around. Some of you may not know what omega blocking is, some of you do know what omega blocking is, but it's pretty much where we see an amplified jet stream sort of stay stagnant with air of high pressure sitting in the middle. Now it does look like that omega block is going to form over the top of the UK and is forming as we speak with this high pressure system we have at the moment, and it does look like it's really not going to be moving for at least a week or so. So do make sure you go out and enjoy this dry and fine weather we're going to be seeing at the moment. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and do remember to follow on Twitter as well. The link's in the description. So you can see at the moment we have got this big area of high pressure over the top of the UK. It is really a blocking feature now. Initially when we had a look at it, it was more just high pressure sitting over the top of the UK, but seeing the longevity that it's taking and how it's going to be shunting off any low pressure system, we can really pretty much firmly call this a blocking pattern now, instead of sort of a transient high pressure system. It is definitely looking like it's blocking pattern because it's going to be lasting at least 7 days. And you can see at the moment it's sort of positioned just to the north and west of Scotland, and that's where we're seeing the highest temperatures today. We're seeing about 23, 24, 25 degrees up in Scotland and Ireland as well. Further south we've seen some cloud around, and unfortunately some areas will be over the next few days. We'll get pockets of cloud just sitting over the top as we see a small upper trough or something just developing a little bit more cloud within the high pressure. And we will see a cold front sweep through overnight tonight, which could give a bit of drizzle and some cloud for the east and the south as well. But you can see as we run through, the high pressure does get strained by low pressure off the Atlantic, but it reforms once again towards this weekend, and you can see towards the east though we do pull in a bit of an easterly wind, which may cool down temperatures a little bit. But you can see the classic omega block pattern with low pressure sitting out in Eastern Europe, low pressure out in the Atlantic, and a big high sitting over the UK. And the reason why it's called an omega block is because it forms, the jet stream forms a pattern similar to the Greek alphabet letter omega. And I'll show you the jet stream pattern in a minute, and you'll see it a bit more distinctly there. But beyond that, you see the high pressure just sits around, really does nothing. Now we can see high pressure ridging northwards, and that's that northern blocking pattern we were looking at yesterday. You can see the high pressure tries to get broken down towards day 10, and it actually successfully gets broken down by the low pressure in off the Atlantic. But because we've got northern blocking around, specifically over Greenland, you can see we go into this pretty chilly northerly wind for the first week of September. And you see some quite cold air does get dragged southwards, not quite to the UK, but it does get dragged southwards, and we could be seeing some snowfall potentially in Scandinavia from that. Now this is getting towards 300 hours plus, so it's right outside the reliable time frame, but up until day 10 it does look like this omega block and general blocking pattern will be staying put. Beyond that, we do go into a much more transient pattern with ridges of high pressure building in, being flattened by low pressure, as we do see a bit of a more active jet stream, but at the same time we're still seeing a lot of amplification within it as we see more high pressure ridging up towards Greenland. If we saw this pattern in winter, we would be going into pretty cold, frosty, and if not snowy pattern. As you can see, this direct northerly wind coming down. Then if we ran this on another 24, 48 hours, we'd be coming straight down to the UK. Now, the air is not particularly cold this time of year, of course, because we are, into the first week of September. But still, interesting signs for the winter and autumn ahead if this sort of pattern does stick around. Now, it won't be consistently like this for the next few months, but it's encouraging that we are seeing these patterns develop. As in past years, we've hardly seen any blocking at all, apart from sort of the core summer months. We see some blocking over the top of the UK. We've seen very little northern blocking over the last few years, apart from, after sun stratospheric warming. So it is encouraging seeing this, and with an easterly QBO this winter, it does look like we could be seeing some interesting patterns. I will probably be doing a winter look ahead in a week or so time into the first week of September, just looking at some of the winter factors, including the stratosphere, the QBO, and we're going into that in a lot more detail. So if we do have a look at the latest from the jet stream, you can see the omega block much more profoundly on this. So you can see this big omega pattern. So if you know what an omega looks like, you can basically see it right here with this high pressure sitting over the top of the UK with a trough of low pressure out towards Scandinavia to Eastern Europe and a trough of low pressure out in the Atlantic. And what it does mean is for the UK, very dry, warm, and sunny most of the time. But where we see these troughs develop, it can be quite wet, and in the winter, especially on the eastern side of the block, it'll be quite cold. Now, an omega block, when you do set up in the low pressure, especially in winter, it can be a very, very snowy pattern. As that low pressure doesn't really move, because remember, it is a blocking pattern, so very stagnant in terms of high pressure, low pressure movements. So it could be setting up quite a wet spell for many parts in Eastern Europe, and we'll have to keep an eye on that for flooding issues as well. But you can see the jet stream does, change slightly, but this general idea of heading up northwards just to the south of Greenland and then heading southwards in Scandinavia, Eastern Europe continues. And you can just see the horizontal jet stream well to the north of the UK, coming up, of course, to the south of Greenland and then coming down again through Scandinavia and Eastern Europe. Really doesn't change all the way up to 192 hours. So a real mega block looking like it is setting up. Nothing too significant for the UK, of course, but it's just interesting seeing this sort of pattern setting up in the moment. It will, of course, bring dry, fine conditions for many people. And to be honest, a lot of people probably wouldn't care we have a mega block around right now. They'll just really enjoy the dry and fine weather. But these are sort of the gritty details as to seeing why we're going to be seeing this very dry spell coming up. If we go through the GM, which actually does show this omega block even better than the GFS, you can see again we've got the block over the top of the UK, low pressure into Eastern Europe, low pressure out of the Atlantic, and really again this high pressure just sticks around all the way into next week. We see warm, dry conditions. Yes, may be a little bit of an easterly wind in the far southeast, but you can see once again low pressure out in Eastern Europe, low pressure out in the Atlantic up towards Greenland. And as we head all the way to day 10, you can see the high pressure is starting to try and be broken down, but once again it's sitting over the top of the UK with low pressure way out to our east and low pressure way out to our west as well. If we do have a look at the upper air temperatures briefly as well, you can see it is not massively hot under the high pressure, but it is generally quite warm. We could be seeing temperatures widely remain in the low 20s for a good few days consecutively. And of course, when there's a bit of cloud, maybe that bit of easterly wind coming in, temperatures may drop a little bit. But where we do see some warmer pockets of air develop and we see some consistent sunshine, we could see temperatures get into the mid-20s, 25, 26 degrees potentially, which is going to be a very, very nice end to August and start of September. If we do have a look at the ECMWF, see how that compares, you can see once again, very similar with the high pressure over the top of the UK, low pressure out in Eastern Europe and Scandinavia, and low pressure out in the Atlantic. As we move on, you can see the high pressure does get strained by the jet stream, but really doesn't change too much. And as we head towards day 10, you can see it does flatten a little bit, as if the block is sort of changing and suddenly starting to be flattened. So you can see low pressure starting to ride over the top of it, potentially pushing the block away, but still for the next 10 days it looks very, very likely high pressure is going to be in a consistent control over the top of the UK with very fine and dry conditions. And you can see even when that block does get flattened a bit more, it will probably bring much drier and finer conditions for the south, where we may see a bit of an easterly wind at times, because that block is a bit further north. It's centred over Scotland. When it does sort of degrade to the south, it could be better for many southern areas, as it does look like with the current block we're going to be seeing. It does look like it's favoured definitely for northern and western areas for seeing the driest and finest weather. There will still, of course, be dry and fine weather in the south and the east, but just with that pesky easterly wind, we could see some cloud, drizzle, and some lower temperatures at times. If we do have a look at the the GFS Ensembles, just had a look at the ECMWF, you can see that very low precipitation signal all the way to the sort of 2nd, 3rd, 4th of September. Next 10 days is looking very, very dry. Now, a few little small precipitation spikes from maybe some drizzle coming in with the easterly wind, but really nothing at all. You can see temperatures quite high at the moment at 850 HPA, with temperatures probably peaking today, especially further north will be, of course, in 25 degrees or so. Will drop much cooler over the next 24 hours, as we do have that cold front, something coming in from the east. Now, it's not active or anything, so it's not particularly active, let's just say. but it will have a little bit of drizzle and some thicker cloud along with it. So maybe at times tomorrow we may have, tomorrow and Friday we may have a bit of patchy drizzle around, and maybe some thicker cloud, meaning temperatures are going to be a little bit lower, but it should generally be very dry for many areas. And I don't suspect any disruption from it at all. For example, any sporting games, cricket, whatever, I don't expect there to be any massive disruption from this cold front. It just may mean temperatures are a little bit lower. Beyond that, though, the temperatures go up again to around average for this time of year as we sit under the high pressure. Very little deviation. A few colder runs, probably from the block moving a bit further northwards and westwards, potentially bringing down a bit of a northerly or northeasterly wind, but most of the ensembles are remaining warm, dry, for pretty much the next 10 days. Beyond that, a little bit more uncertainty comes in and some low pressure tries to push in, and we could again be getting some more variable conditions, but at the moment it is looking very fun and dry for the next 10 days. Can't really say exactly what's going to be happening beyond 10 days, as the models do tend to struggle forecasting a breakdown of a block, especially in the longer term. They do get the time frame pretty. They normally have a look at the time frame pretty poorly, and then also don't always break it down in reality compared to what they would forecast at sort of 10 days out. It rarely ever happens the exact way they have forecasted it, the models. So there's no real point looking at sort of day 10 and beyond. If we do have a look at Glasgow, just to give an idea of what we're going to see in the north, you can see again, very dry the next 10 days. Pretty unusual for Scotland, I must say. I know it has got a pretty, is known by many people as being cold, drab, cloudy and rainy for a lot of the time in Scotland, but you can see the next 10 days it's not going to be like that at all. It's going to be sunny, it's going to be reasonably warm, and it's going to be dry. Very little rainfall over the next 10 days, and it'll probably be quite a dry start to autumn as well. Now we are seeing, of course, every day we look at this, we're seeing some quite strong precipitation spikes in the longer term, because that's pretty usual. As the autumn comes, we get jet stream power up a little bit, so we're always going to see in the longer term a lot of precipitation spikes, but it keeps getting pushed back. It's getting pushed back to sort of the 6th, 7th, 8th of September now, so it is looking encouraging for warm and dry weather pretty much everywhere across the UK for the next 10 days, and you can see in Scotland it could be above average temperatures, feeling very warm indeed, pretty much for the next sort of 14 days. Now, of course, it may mix in some precipitation in the longer term, but again, as I said, breaking down with the block, there's no real point looking beyond 10 days. It is very, very uncertain. If we do have a look at the sea level pressure, which gives us a good idea, you can see that high pressure really is in control for the next 10 days, all the way to the 3rd, 4th of September. High pressure completely in control, and even beyond that, the majority of the ensemble members still have high pressure in and around the UK. Just a few are dipping to some lower pressure coming in off the Atlantic. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. One thing we also may need to keep an eye on is the tropical Atlantic situation. And we'll probably do a National Hurricane Centre update in the next couple of days. There's 3 very interesting systems developing out in the tropical Atlantic. No depressions or storms at the moment, but there is a very high chance that each of these 3 systems do develop significantly. One is quite far out in the Atlantic, heading towards the Caribbean. One is in sort of the South Caribbean, heading through parts of Mexico potentially over the next few days, and one's sitting out in the middle of the Atlantic and could be developing further northwards, and that one could be coming towards the UK over the next 7 days or so, and that could put a spanner into the works with this block we're seeing, and it could develop into a bit of a cut-off low. I'm not expecting any stormy weather really with it, but it could just mean a slightly different outcome than what we're seeing in the models at the moment, and it could drastically change. We could see a little bit of a flip over the next few days, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. It could, of course, change it quite drastically, but at this stage it's not looking like it's going to be anything too significant at all. For the UK at least. If we do have a look at the UK Met Office, have a look at precipitation and temperature, you can see for the next few days, very little rain. Again, tomorrow, through the early hours, could be a bit of drizzle in the east, and then a few showers potentially in the East Anglia and the southeast, but nothing particularly significant at all. And then through Friday, again, very dry, maybe a few showers in the far southeast, but generally looking pretty dry, and even the showers looking pretty light. And again, a few showers maybe through Monday morning as well, where we do have a thicker cloud around. if we do have a look at the max temperatures, you can see today we've seen temperatures get up to around 25 degrees in the north and the west, looking very, very, very pleasant. As we head through to Thursday afternoon, you can see temperatures peaking once again around 20 degrees, 21, 22 degrees, but we do have that cold front moving in, so it may cool temperatures down, especially in the east a little bit. Through Friday, you see temperatures picking up once again to around 21, 22 degrees, quite widely in western areas and across Ireland, maybe a bit cooler for the north and the east, where we do have a bit of an easterly wind moving in. Saturday afternoon looking very pleasant, of course, indeed. Again, similar to the other days, 20, 21, 22 degrees, quite widely. Not too much temperature deviation, even towards the coast. Temperatures maybe only dipping down to 15, 16 degrees in that easterly wind. And again, very, very pleasant for all. And then Sunday's looking like another pleasant day, 20, 21, 22 degrees. And looking very fine, dry for the foreseeable future with this mega block. So it is looking very, very stagnant over the next week to 10 days. And for all those people out there who enjoy warm and dry weather, it does look like nothing really is going to be happening too much across the UK. Just looks like it's going to be above average temperatures, pretty dry conditions, and fairly, fairly pleasant weather for you to go out and enjoy. So we'll just have to keep an eye on what happens with the tropical developments, whether that does impact our weather, and see what happens with the breakdown of this omega block in probably about a week's time, a week or 10 days' time. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.